when I'm writing, it's like a cathartic process for me. It's like usually like I'm working through something, but like at the end of the day, like I just want to make people feel things.
Yeah. I feel like a part of that is the performer in you.
As much as I feel like it's such a part of my past, like I haven't done theater in so long,
Yeah.
it's still wholly a part of who I am.
Welcome, everybody, to Casting for Two, the podcast, as always, hosted by that guy named Chris. Welcome, everybody, to episode number 555 of the podcast. Wonderful episode for you all today. November's here, then here comes December, and then it's the end of the year. Does anybody feel like the year is just like I don't know, it feels very quick to me. Let me know if it feels the same way to you. castingfor2.com or at castingfor2 on all the socials except Twitter. But I need to talk about my guest. Okay, my guest is a phenomenal singer, songwriter, musician, performer. Erin Barth-Dwyer is on the show, and they are in the band Overheard, and they have a new debut album, brand new, Intertwined, which is out right now. And they're also the band's on tour currently, so if you see them in your area, go check them out. But Erin was such a fun person to chat with. I know we're going to mention it in the episode, but I love anybody who has a theater background. That's my favorite. Okay. I'm done talking. We need to get into this episode. So everybody sit back, relax, and Erin, take it away. Hi, Erin. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you, Chris?
It's been a crazy couple of days. Over the weekend, I had a low-grade fever that came out of nowhere.
Oh my
And
gosh, I'm sorry to hear that.
it's okay. And so I've been a little loopy ever since. So
Oh boy. Well, loopy can make for fun conversation if it's the right kind of loopy.
exactly. So we're just gonna kind of roll with it. And
Noted. Got it.
yeah, so I'll just apologize, beforehand if the interviews goes off the rails.
Oh gosh. Okay. No need to apologize. I'm sorry that you haven't been feeling well. So,
I feel like I don't know what it is, but part of me just wants to blame allergies because it's never ending.
yeah, that's true. It's been relentless this year.
And then I was talking to my mom, and she was just like, "Oh, it's gonna be really windy tomorrow, so it's gonna be extra worse." And
Nice.
I'm
Cool.
like,
Good.
like, cool. That's the day I have to go out into the world. Awesome. Perfect. Um, so yeah. But and so again, this is a pretty loose show where we can talk about anything and everything. Um, I'm gonna forego the subject of allergies because I
Yeah.
let's get past it. Let's skip it. We allergies has enough people talking about it. So
Yeah, it doesn't need the exposure.
exactly, it's fine.
It's
But
doing fine on its own.
but I'm always curious when people find their a particular niche, when they get bit by a certain bug, not an allergy bug. But in your case, when did you get bit by that music bug?
Oh gosh. I don't know. I've always been roped up with music in one way or another.
Hmm.
Pretty much my whole life. My grandfather was a singer. He
Oh.
sung in a men's chorus,
Uh-huh.
and I don't recall this, but as my mom and my grandmother love to recount, the very first time I saw them perform, I like ran into the concert hall and I like ran away from my mom down the aisle towards the chorus, the choir as they were gathering, and I shouted, "That's my grandpa!" And
Aw.
like they were all a bunch of white-haired men on stage. They were all grandpas, and everybody laughed. But I think that that was probably one of my like earliest influences of like I want to do something musically. I tried learning instruments when I was younger. I took cello in like the third grade, and I was never very good at reading sheet music, and
Mm,
so I didn't really excel in that world. But I loved singing.
yeah.
That came pretty naturally to me, and so I ended up pursuing that through most of my childhood. I was in a bunch of different choirs, and I was did musical theater, and I took vocal lessons, and I was getting trained classically. There was a like very very teeny tiny short period of my life where I was like maybe I'll be an opera singer. Not so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it wasn't really until later in life that I picked up a guitar and seriously decided that I wanted to like learn how to play.
Yeah. Okay. I just, I always love when the musical influence is inside the house. It's like, okay, you have relatives that are around. In this case, your grandfather, and yeah, I absolutely love that. Were your parents at all musical?
My parents enjoyed listening to music,
Okay.
but neither of them ever performed or played. My mom did buy a piano when we were younger,
Hmm.
we, meaning me and my siblings, because she thought it would be good to have in the house,
Yeah.
for us in case we did want to pursue that. And my sister actually ended up sort of studying it more than I did, but it was a nice tool to have
Yeah.
growing up. And if ever like I had the itch to bang something out or to work through something, like it was there.
Yeah.
They were very supportive. But yeah, listening to music, my dad's a big, he has like a huge collection of CDs.
Mm.
And when I sort of started showing interest in like finding music to listen to, he was very excited to share his collection with me.
Aw, yeah. It's like I'm a huge, I don't know if it's from, movies, television, stuff like that, but there is something special about just having a piano in a house. Even better if somebody knows how to play it. But
Yeah,
I
totally.
full on would love a piano in the house. I not to brag, but I know the C scale. I can play it on piano.
Wow,
So,
oh, very impressive.
I can play hot cross buns, and
Wow, look at
so
you.
I yes, major symphonies want me. No, so it's but yeah, it's something that, man, I my niece got a keyboard this past Christmas, and I was so excited for her because I like I like the piano, and I can figure out the scales.
Hmm.
At one point I did know them. Now I'm just like, okay, let me work my way through it. And of course, I'm standing there playing her keyboard while she's just like, "Are you done yet? Because I want to jump on." I'm like, "I'm sorry. I'm trying to relive the young me and figure
It
out these
sounds like it
scales."
sounds like you need to get a keyboard for yourself.
I used to have one,
Yeah.
but it had to be connected to the computer. So it was kind
Oh,
of,
yeah,
it was
yeah.
kind of a bummer, but I did so much like messing around. And this is when I like the Apple days of my life, which I'm, no offense to Apple or anything. I'm just not in those days anymore because
Yeah, no,
I'm
me
just like,
too.
it broke. So, but yeah, I used to have fun just being on GarageBand and trying to make something with the scales that I knew.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I feel like sort of building on what you're saying, like more so than any other instrument as far as like how I feel like a piano in the house is an invitation to anyone who
Yes.
has the like I feel like somebody who's not really musically inclined, if they were to see like a guitar on a stand, they would not, they would feel kind of fearful of it. And like,
Right.
God forbid it be like a violin or a trumpet or something that requires, requires you to be loud to practice it. But I feel like everybody feels comfortable sitting down at a piano and like plunking away. There's something really compelling about like the tactical nature of it,
Yeah.
and for me too, like I learned all of like the theory that I know sort of relative to the piano, and even though I don't really play it, like when I'm thinking about chord shapes or scales or intervals or anything in my head, I picture a keyboard.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's again in school, I was always fascinated with the percussionists that would then turn around and play the piano because I was just like, how do you know how to play so many instruments? And they were just like, it's just a giant marimba. It's the same
Yeah,
thing.
basically.
Yeah, it's the same thing. And I could not wrap my head around that until I started doing percussion stuff, and then I was like, oh, it's like a piano. And so
Hmm.
once that I figured that out, and I come from the low brass world. I come from a tuba world, so that's the only kind of sheet music I knew how to read at the time. This was long time ago, but I would buy tuba like songbooks, and then adjust them to the piano, and that's how I would play because
Hey, that's
my brain, like I couldn't process piano stuff, but tuba stuff, okay, yeah, that's
fair.
easy to do.
That's a
Um,
language you get. Well, and the ability to translate that stuff is a skill in its own right. So that's pretty cool.
at one point I knew how to play Chariots of Fire.
Wow.
Yes. Now again, not the tuba version on piano.
Right. 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 Right.
But still, it was I don't uh that skill is long gone to transcribe because I'm again years ago. But yeah, there's something, I don't know. Piano is just special. I guess that's what I'm trying to get to. It's
Yeah,
um,
I would agree with that. I feel like it's in the world of instruments, it feels like the great equalizer, you know?
mhm, mhm. No,
Everybody's got some sort of tie to it.
yeah, yeah. I don't. It's yeah. So I.
I mean, I will say tangential to that, I do not in my band and not really publicly anymore, but I do play harp, and
Oh,
it's one of my favorite instruments in the
yeah.
world, and when you really think about it, it's basically just a piano turned on its side.
Is it?
I mean, no,
Oh,
but also kind of.
okay.
There's a great skit, a Marx Brothers skit where Harpo
Yes.
Marx is like sitting down at a grand piano and he's like plunking away at it, and he's very terrible. It's just like blam 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 sounds, and as
Yeah.
he's plunking away, the instrument starts to fall apart. The sides of it fall off or whatever, and then all he's left with is the frame, and he's in front of an audience and he's really embarrassed. So he turns the frame on its side and he strums it, and famously a harp player, he
Yeah.
obviously he knows how to do it, and he plays this beautiful song, and it's slapstick humor, but it's also not totally incorrect. Like,
Right.
I think the way that one would approach like arranging for a harp and like thinking about the way that chords stack, it's not completely analogous, obviously, but it's
Mhm.
not it's a lot more similar than you might think.
Yeah. Yeah. All. It's so. Yes, I agree. It's all connect. I mean, they're all instruments, but they're all connected in this weird way. Once you break the code and you see it, it's like, oh my gosh, of course it is. And I love those Marx Brother movies, and I was chatting with somebody else about them. How I love slapstick humor, but there was
Yeah.
the point where okay, we're gonna have that instrumental break, and yeah, you have Harpo dead serious while he was playing.
Right.
And it was
Yeah.
always, very beautiful, very long, and um, it was always wonderful to see. So yeah, no, I love even the when Chico would play the keys, and he would do it in a really funny way, but it sounded wonderful still. And it was just like, wow, the amount of practice that they have and all that. I don't know. It made seeing that, it makes music fun for somebody who's just like, what is he doing? I don't know. It's
Right.
uh,
Yeah, no, I agree. And I love that they clearly do take their or they did take their musical skills seriously and were able to honor that in the slapstick world that they operate in. I feel like I'm sort of like a slapstick comedian at heart, but
yeah.
not in a performance way. Like I write melancholy tunes, but
Mm.
like between these songs of existential dread, I'll like try making jokes on stage that nobody laughs at. So I can relate to that.
Look, there's nothing wrong with having a vaudevillian heart. I am guilty of having one, and so if you need somebody to laugh at your jokes, give me a ring and I'll do it. I'll be the one laughing.
Next time I'm on stage and a joke falls flat, I'll call you up and I'll put you on the microphone so the audience knows
Yes,
somebody finds me funny.
somebody does, and I'll be like, huh? What? And then you just hang up.
That sounds like a good plan.
Perfect. And so, just kind of going through your history, and I love that the theater training, the theater background, of course, I love acting, so that's just, I love that you have that influence in you, but I'm just curious, when did you find your particular sound?
Oh gosh. Yeah, I mean it's definitely developed over time.
Mm-hmm.
I think actually an artist that so I'm inclined to I listen to all different types of music, but the music that I write is very like I mean, in my band, we're an indie rock band. I love
Mm-hmm.
indie music.
Yeah.
I'm kind of folk inclined, but I also love heavier stuff, and so we sort of blend those influences. But like when it's just me and my guitar, like I love like bare bones finger style. I love. I mean, these days my influences are I want to do like some primitive guitar work. Like I've been like listening to a lot of John Fahey.
Mm-hmm.
I mean stuff like that. But when I was younger, I always point to the bridge between like my musical theater days and my like exploring like singer songwriter music was Regina Spektor.
Yeah.
'Cause up until I was about 13, maybe I pretty exclusively listened to show tunes. And then, my dad would show me stuff and like I listened to The Who and Genesis and that was like music that I shared with my dad. But like when I was seeking out music, I was listening to like the soundtrack to Wicked.
Yeah.
But then my dad showed me like a really early Regina Spektor CD and I feel like she has this theatricality about her. Is that a word? Theatricality?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you
Uh,
said it.
yeah.
It's a word. Yeah.
Right. All right. Cool. We're being creative here. Yeah. She's there's this theatrical nature to her music, and while also being intimate and complex and all of the ways that folk music can be. And I was like smitten with her, like completely head over heels in love.
Mm-hmm.
It's a wonder that I didn't pick up the piano, being how in love with her I was at the time.
Yeah.
um, yeah, and that sort of I think opened me up to more like singer songwritery stuff. Definitely more like stuff in like the indie folk genre. I also at the time discovered Fiona Apple, who I loved,
Mm.
another famous piano player. Again, it's a wonder that I never picked that up. Yeah, and I think that like one of the things that like through the years the music that has compelled me the most that I've worked to emulate is music that's really emotionally evocative. I
Mm.
love like music's ability to pinpoint emotions that words can't always.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and so, yeah, like the musicians who I'm compelled by that, like I think have driven my biggest influence are musicians that have done that. I think by and large across the board, one of my biggest influences is Elliott Smith. I think
Mm.
he's like the king of many, many things, but one of those things is like he writes these like little sonic capsules of feeling that that I don't think any words in the English language can fully do justice to, but his songs do.
Yeah.
And that's sort of what I when I'm writing, it's like a cathartic process for me. It's like usually like I'm working through something, but like at the end of the day, like I just want to make people feel things.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I feel like a part of that is the performer in you as well.
Sure.
The theater performer.
Yeah, yeah. As much as I feel like it's such a part of my past, like I haven't done theater in so long,
Yeah.
it's still wholly a part of who I am.
Yeah.
Um, I forget who it was. Somebody once I like mentioned that I used to be a theater kid, and somebody was like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense." And I was like, "Oh no, is that an insult?"
So my girlfriend has her BFA, and it's something that like. It's one of the reasons why I fell in love with her, because I just love um, the creative mind. I love somebody who's very creative, and I just said that. But so it's just there's a performer sense to her, and I went to film school. I studied acting, so I'm like, oh, we're gonna have a lot in common, and so like it's so funny how each, even again, might like instruments, each like kind of art, different style of art, it all influences together, whether it's acting, singing, music. It's just like it's all one. And I think that's something so special. So you can, one, and when you, the more art that you consume and carry with you, it only makes everything else better. So
Yeah, yeah. I wholeheartedly agree. And I love and I really admire when people are able to sort of like blend all those different
yeah.
experiences into one. I feel like I've been noticing a lot more um, within my own sort of community of artists and musicians, people trying to find like more and different ways to engage
Hmm.
with their audiences than like I'm on stage playing a song. More
Right.
people doing like intentional listening parties and incorporating like sort of mixed sort of styles of instead of just like three indie rock bands, like how about this like experimental artist who like built this crazy instrument does a performance for a little bit before I do mine, that kind
Yeah.
of thing. And I love that sort of thing.
Yeah, no, I'm all about that too. It's just uh in different like whatever mediums or like shows, movies, stuff like that. I feel like a lot of the performers that do think out of the box to prevent a show, they're always kind of made fun of for, I don't know, oh, they're doing a show in a house that's made out of a giant mushroom. But I'm just like, that's kind of rad, though. Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, look, walls that are made out of mushrooms naturally provide a better insulation. So I don't know what you're
Yeah, it probably
talking about.
sounds great in a giant mushroom.
Yeah,
But the acoustics are incredible.
if you can play inside a yurt, you can play in front of millions of people. That's my philosophy. I'm getting
Yeah,
bumper
yeah.
stickers made of that. So, but yeah, no, I think that's wonderful. Do you have a dream like scenario that you've been thinking of, like, I don't know, listening party or something like that? Is there like a dream scenario that you would like to have?
Oh gosh. Well, I mean, we do have our album release
Hmm.
show coming up. We're releasing our debut LP in a little less than 2 weeks now. Although I will say we're doing it somewhat conventionally.
Hmm.
We have two other musical acts opening, and then we have a very, very good DJ doing like an after party thing. Um, but I think for us the important thing with that was that we wanted to surround ourselves with other like talented people in the community and our friends, and that was more of the focus.
Hmm.
Um, but I do. as we through this whole release cycle, we've been working on creating a lot of video content because
Mm,
that's just the way the world is right now. Everybody's hungry for video.
right.
And I've been really loving it. I went to school for video production, digital media production, really,
Mm,
but it's been fun sort of dipping my toes back in that world and getting to exercise it as we create new content to sort of go with our music. And we do have an idea for a music video that we just have not had the time to execute before this release. So I think we're going to try to see it through and do like a post-release music video thing that we would love to do something around that, a viewing of it. We've got access to some really cool spaces. There's this old, it used to be a church. It's now a venue. And so we've been
mm.
sort of talking, conspiring about having a screening of the music video there and like inviting some performers to sort of open up the space. And again, in like that really sort of intentional way, like cool setting, showcasing our art in a way beyond just listen to us play these songs.
Yeah, yeah. Put on an experience.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that. I love that. And speaking of the EP, I'm just curious. Another question that I love asking is, of the songs, was there one on the EP that was just a little bit, I don't know, trickier to figure out, whether like the lyrics or the music, just something wasn't gelling that you just kind of like, let's keep thinking about it. It just kind of took a little bit extra time.
That's a good question. I don't with the songs that we have that like that yes, we have encountered that as a band with
Mm,
our music writing, but the songs on this album in particular, I feel like um they were developed sort of all at once and then slowly over time.
mm,
Like they came together fully formed and then we let them marinate for in some cases like years
yeah.
before we recorded them and put them together. And that's I think like sonically one of the like unifying traits that they have is that they've all sort of been like incubating
Mm.
together and um like I don't know with this particular collection of songs that there's any one that was like difficult to piece together. It was more just like this is really good, but it could be a little bit better, and
Yeah.
like slowly changing things over time until we brought it to the recording studio, and then even in the studio, like having the space to like listen to it in high fidelity and say like, oh, this part would be really cool if we added a little whatever texture.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it was a much more sort of slow and deliberate evolution.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I like that just because, yeah, I like when, not every song birthing is different, but it's nice to see that. Oh, okay, let's take our time with the songs, and yeah, let's work through it. Let's just kind of. Uh, I assume you weren't under any kind of crunch or anything like that with the songs.
No, yeah. I mean, these songs, again, like I said, some of them, the oldest song on this album has been in existence in the world for like 6 years now.
Mm,
Um,
okay.
yeah, and it was less like we want to release this thing, we gotta like scramble to put it together by this date. It was more like, we have so much material, like we need
Right.
to like put it out in the world already. Um, and yeah, it was kind of more that. I think that we were really fortunate actually to be able to do this really in our own time and
Yeah.
in a way that felt good and like we were honoring the process and the songs and each other in all of it.
I love that. And definitely, just from my point of view, during the pandemic, I felt like I was chatting with a lot of people that were just putting stuff out, so much. Like, I wrote this in whatever such and such days, it's just like blah, blah, blah. And, now that we've gotten some distance, I feel like a lot more people are going back to the less rush and just like, yeah, we've been working on this, we've been sitting on it for a bit, and just just taking our time because hey, we're just doing some JK living over here, so it'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I love to hear that. I feel like there's with social media these
Mm,
days, there's you're talking about like the push for like more video content. I see
yeah,
a lot of like strategy type people touting like the power of like just releasing single after single, like there's this like ideology that you just kind of have to keep pushing out content to like keep up with the algorithm,
yeah,
and it's exhausting to
yeah,
do.
yeah,
And like maybe there are definitely people out there. I know some people who are capable of like spitting out an incredible song like once a week, and like that's cool, good for them. But like that's not the way that I operate, and that
right.
stressed me out for a really long time. Like, oh, I'm never gonna be successful because I can't just like shit out a song
Yeah,
that's like incredible every single week. Like, it takes me time to feel things and process those feelings to like really piece together something that means something to me. And I think that that's you know been sort of the ethos of this band in particular, and like the way that we work together. And It's taken me a while to be like comfortable and confident with that. And it's nice that I like that you say you've encountered. I've also encountered it too. People really just deciding I don't want to keep up with this horrible social media race.
yeah,
The algorithm is mean to me, and I'm just gonna do things the way I want to.
yeah, yeah. People live and die by social media, which, hey, if you want to do that, that's totally fine, great, dandy, whatever. But again, during the pandemic, that's when I experienced my slowdown, and that's when I was just like, oh, I actually hate Twitter. Oh,
Yeah.
I don't need to bring my phone with me at all times. I can just leave it right there and I'll be fine. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so that and I try to keep that mentality carried over because yeah, it's just like uh, at the end of the day, who cares? That's the Bill Murray in me. Just like, who cares? Let's just
Yeah.
let's just you know, uh, eh. So
I mean, I agree with you too. During the pandemic, I really took a step back from social media. It really kind of, I think for a lot of us, we would
yeah,
like started to examine our relationships with these things. And I have a much different relationship with it now
yeah,
than I did back then. But I still maintain a relationship because
you have to.
it's
Yeah,
necessary depending on your goals or whatever. But like I'll just speak to like being a musician in a small community, to like stay connected, to be like tuned into like what's going on, different events, like meeting people, like when you're
mm,
touring and you meet other bands, like that's how you stay in touch and keep up with them so that you
yeah.
can reach out again in the future. Is like you have to be present and available and active to some degree. So it's like it's tough trying to find the balance between doing enough to maintain your sort of position in the community while not inundating yourself with all of the bullshit.
Right, right. Yeah, no. And for me, I've been really, especially for music, just kind of keeping it close just to, oh, what if I hear the next good song or something like that, cuz um it's kind of hard to discover new music. Um Now that I listen to Sirius, but I don't listen to it every day. It's just like how does one discover new music? So it's really just kind of keeping an
Let me
ear.
tell you,
Yeah,
the people of Instagram Reels would have you believe that you gotta trick the algorithm into pushing your music out there, and that the algorithm will also feed you good music. And yes, there's a degree to which that is still true.
yeah,
But time and again, I have discovered, like even just in this past year, I have discovered some of my favorite bands, some of my favorite songs, some of my favorite albums by just going out to shows,
Yeah.
by playing shows with other bands that have now become like some of my favorite acts out there right now.
Yeah.
And like going to support friends and seeing people play live. There's so much incredible music being made that's
Yes.
just not being heard because people aren't playing the internet game the correct way, the quote unquote correct way.
Yes, yes. And I fully agree with you. Another way that I found, just start a podcast where you interview individuals. That's the best way
Hey,
to find music. And it's just like
I love that.
I'm never ungrateful for any music that I get unless it's country jazz. I will never. I'm sorry, I can't listen to country jazz, especially behind a paywall. I just can't do it.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
But for the people at home who would like to follow you all online, catch a show, pick up the EP, all that good stuff, where can they do all that?
Yeah, so we are called Overheard. The platform that we are most active on is Instagram, so you can find us there at overheard.music. We've got a link tree in our bio with links to all of our streaming platforms. We're on all the streaming platforms, so you can find us wherever you like to listen to music. We've released 2 singles from our upcoming album so far. I'm not sure when this episode's coming out. The full album might be out by then. This album is called Intertwined. Yeah, we're going to be doing our release show on October 25th in the Hudson Valley, at the Avalon Lounge in Catskill, New York. But we're doing 2 release shows. We're going to do a month later in New York City on Saturday, November 23rd, I want to say. Yes, 23rd, at Umbra, which is in Bushwick, Brooklyn. And then we're going to be doing some shows here and there, sort of to the end of the year, and then come the new year, we'll be doing some touring, hopefully. So,
Oh, nice. So yeah, everyone be ready for all that, and yeah, just be ready. I'm just bossing the audience. Like, be ready. Like,
yeah, be ready, guys.
yeah, just be ready.
Just be ready.
But
Be prepared for all things.
yes, for everything, but mainly for the music. Okay. But Erin, thank you so much for chatting with me. I've had a wonderful time. Anytime you want to come back and talk about show tunes, I would love
Oh my
to.
gosh.
You know, look,
Okay.
I was compressing the show tunes talk because, you know, I want to talk about the new album. But, you know, it's just like I feel like we could go for a bit on show tunes.
Oh, we certainly could. Okay, well, we'll talk again in the future then.
Yes,
Chris.
we'll
Sounds good
put
to
a
me.
pin. We'll put a pin in that. But
Yeah.
until then, you have a wonderful rest of your day and keep staying safe and healthy. Okay.
Thank you. You too, Chris. I hope you feel better.
Oh yeah, no, the drugs are kicking in, so we miss the loopiness.
Ah, dang. Next time.
Next time, yeah. Oh yeah,
Show tunes and loopiness.
yes,
That's what I want next time.
loopy show tunes. That's the episode. So yeah,
Great.
look out for it.
Okay.
All right, bye bye.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.